Hi there. I just wanted to do a little video about fragrances, chemical sensitivity. I live in Missoula, Montana. I've been here for a few years, maybe about 4 or 5. And something that I first noticed when I was just walking down the street is all the artificial fragrances you could smell from people's dryers. You're in somebody's car. They've got those Glade plugins, or they're using a dryer sheet in their car as a fragrance. They People in their homes will use Glade plugins, or just take the sweater from the deep storage and with the mothballs, and they'll wear it even though it's emitting all this mothball smell. And people in Missoula, they think that they're kind of up on health stuff, um, and maybe there are those who are up on it. I haven't really met that many. I mean, there's people who kind of are aware about vegetarianism and veganism, but the notion of chemical sensitivity or electromagnetics, or even just, gluten, like that's a big one if they're kind of up on like autoimmune, gluten-free, paleo diet, and talk about the specific carbohydrate diet or the gut and psychology syndrome diet. I mean, that's taking it to another level. So anyways, that's kind of like my broad strokes general assessment of the culture here as I've experienced it. And I have been living in a building that has some mold problems. I live on the 3rd floor, and this is the roof of the building. And so there's drips that come down, and I used to have my bed at this wall, and I would just there'd be all this strong, kind of weird, hard to place fragrance that I would smell. And I asked about it, and it seems like, I mean, the only thing I could place that it was mold. So I'd be, I was running my fan and using my ionizer and wearing a mask, and it was as long as I took out the screen, so I was able to get some air flow in and out, and as long as I was able to do that, it was tolerable. And then this past year, I'm noticing from behind where you are, this other wall, a new type of mold smell was developing, and on the side of this building, there was a drain pipe that overflowed, iced over during the winter, and it saturated that wall, and it made somebody's ceiling fall in on that first floor where that drain pipe froze over. And so I'm suspecting that there's some new mold that's down there and coming through the drafts of this older building, this 3-story, 120-year-old building. And they don't bother, like I've asked about the mold, and they're telling me there's no mold, nothing that anybody could see. But this is a 120-year-old building with a roof that needs to be repaired, and it can't be repaired because it's so damaged. So it's a difficult renter's market here. I have been told that it's like a less than 1% vacancy rate in Missoula. So landlords have all the power, and that's generally been my experience. And so this current property manager doesn't do anything to remediate the mold issue. And it took forever when I was dealing with somebody smoking cigarettes, and it was coming into my space, and it took them a year to do anything about it, and they were claiming there was nobody smoking, or that it was coming from this opposite end of the room where it wasn't, and the property manager was trying to blame me for the costs of remediating the cigarette smoke. They were trying to keep a smoker, and anyway, and this is a property manager that has a hurt feelings clause, so they would like to charge you if you have hurt their feelings, and of course they get to decide what hurt feelings are, and I doubt that this is a reciprocal clause, that if they hurt my feelings, that I get compensated, of course. And so not only with the neglecting the mold issue, taking forever to deal with indoor cigarette smoking, when I was first here, there was a housekeeper, and there still is, who liked to spray Pine Sol, and so she would seem to spray extra, and I asked her if she would stop, and she got violently angry, was yelling at me, insisting that people liked the Pine Sol spray. And Pine Sol, if you look at the safety use, it's not supposed to be an aerosol spray, it's a surfactant, it's for surfaces. And what the property manager was telling me was that they needed to sanitize the air, and so that's what they were using Pine Sol for. Now, I think most average listeners would know that Pine Sol is not an air sanitizer. Hospitals do not use spraying Pine Sol as an air sanitizer. I don't even think they use Lysol as an air sanitizer. Fortunately, most people have enough intelligence to know that kind of volatile chemical is not good. It's not healthy for sealed in living spaces. If you look at all of these products, they're supposed to be used in well ventilated spaces, of which this building is not. And so it took a lot for me to get them to have that housekeeper who insisted on spraying extra, especially after I asked. Like, it took a lot to get her to stop spraying. And that's an interesting thing that I'm noticing about being chemically sensitive, is that if you actually disclose that you're chemically sensitive, perpetrators will actually do it extra. And this is actually women. I've seen 2 articles on the internet where a woman at work, who was like a nurse even, like her coworkers wore extra fragrances deliberately to assault the woman. And I don't know what the psychology of it is. It seems like it's this malicious woman on woman hating. I don't know, is it called gang stalking? But it's a type of like bullying with chemicals, and I guess it's like a sign of the times, because when I was a kid, there would be there were children who were allergic to chocolate, there were children who were allergic to peanuts or allergic to whatever. And when I was a kid, we didn't make the kid eat chocolate. We didn't make the kid eat peanuts. We didn't rub it on their skin. But maybe it's a thing about Montana and Missoula where that's what they want to do. They want to see you suffer. Maybe Missoula is a sadistic culture. I don't know. But that is some of what I've experienced. Because of the mold, starting up on this new wall, I decided to move. And so I had to do this 2-hour-long application for this new place, all this documentation, paying for the processing fee, paying for disclosing everything about my life, having all my finances exposed, investigated. And I told the new property manager of this new place, where I'm paying quite a bit more, that I'm moving because of mold. And so the very nice property manager was like, "Oh, I understand, I get migraines, and I'll make sure that the woman who's cleaning won't be using fragrances." So today, it's a big day, picked up the keys, and I just got back, and they had been using some, I don't know if they had a Glade plug-in. It was one of the really cloying, sweet smelling baby powder fragrances. And I don't know if it was a Glade plug-in or some type of aerosol spray or some type of like powder, I don't know, but it was so uh, incredibly saturated in the space. I couldn't think after being in there for 20 minutes. And in this new place, there's no windows that I could open at my arm level, and if there were, I couldn't detect them because my brains were so scrambled from how strong that fragrance was. And it was nighttime, so I couldn't have the door open because I'm like, I don't want to have my door open at night. So, my part of why I'm doing this video is because it seems like if you're in maybe I don't know what it is about Missoula. I don't know if there's other parts of the country where women are really, there's like a mean girl culture by adult women, and of course younger women, but there's, it's just an accepted part of the thing of just this cruelty, this maliciousness, and so there's like there's nice women who are just decent, intelligent, helpful people, and then there's these mean women who enjoy destroying other people's lives, who enjoy destroying other women's lives. I experienced this in my house hunting search, where I was about to get an interview. This woman really liked me, and then this other woman who didn't know me very well, I suspect, she spoke against me, and this prospective roommate declined to want to interview me, claiming, I just seemed like it might not be a good fit, and then I was like, let's meet up anyway, just to be friends. And I never heard from this woman again. And that's this culture here. I call it provincial, where there's like this. I wish I knew more about malicious bullying dynamics, and I do know a little bit, but it's where, and it's not quite narcissism, because there are women here who are deliberately trying to ruin other they're trying to rule other women's lives. And I don't understand what the satisfaction they're getting out of that, but I have noticed it, and so I did notice it with this housekeeper, because we're all struggling. I don't live in a fancy apartment building. I'm not well off. I am basically trying to survive as well, and yet there's people who want to ruin somebody's day, and so I had told this property manager, I was moving out of mold. She told me that she was going to make sure that there was no fragrances, and of course there was a huge dump of fragrances in that space, and what I'm realizing is disclosing chemical sensitivity is actually going to set you up for 10 times more. You're actually going to be targeted if you disclose that you have chemical sensitivity. And people, in Oregon, in Portland, or San Francisco, or New York City, you won't understand what I'm talking about. anywhere where it's coastal or where it's like seriously multiracial, and where it's integrated. Like, so I'm in Montana, and there's a huge Native American population, but it isn't integrated. It's super segregated. And even if there's like a Native American and a white person in a room, it's like there's this huge barrier, just this huge spiritual gape, this void, and it's unlike any place I've lived, other than perhaps when I lived in South Dakota. But I was too young to understand interpersonal dynamics enough to see what was going on there, but I suspect that might have been it as well. So, yeah, if you tell people that you're sensitive to mold, you're sensitive to fragrances, you're sensitive to even probably sound, expect that is going to be deliberately increased to a debilitating level, like where people will actively use it against you. And I know, like probably 99.9% of the people are like, that's impossible. People are not that evil, and I'm telling you, at least in Missoula, they are. Thank you for watching.